What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you updated builds tier list after week 1 in Path of Exile's 2 new update, The Rise of the Abyssal. So I will rank the top 20 most popular builds from worst to best, and each week I will keep updating it depending on how the meta shifts. So right now, the PoE2 meta has been primarily getting obliterated by the lightning arrow and the ice shot deadeyes, while spark and the crit stormweavers and the blood mages been seeing super powerful setups, as well as the flicker strikes and ice strike invokers been trying to climb up the ranks with some cool new builds and much more. And remember, if you want to track these builds, look up the best items, the skill trees and path of building, then check my links in the description. And before we continue, thanks to U4GM. They are a pro website that provides PoE2 services like cheap currency, then even to trade all types of quality items and gems and much more. They have also more than 20,000 positive comments on Trustpilot, and this website is really worth a try. So make sure to use my discount code KATE for extra 6% off. At number 20, we have the Lightning Spear Amazon build, which delivers clean, piercing strikes of the lightning that shreds enemies from afar. It has excellent coverage in open areas, and the Huntress Ascendancy will provide the agility to kite while staying lethal. However, it falls short in the bossing, as single target scaling feels underwhelming compared to the stronger projectile options. In today's meta, it's reliable leveling or the mid-game choice, but it struggles to keep the pace with the higher damage archetypes. The build still works because of its consistent clear and the range. However, it lags behind of the storm or the bow builds. Then next up we have Explosive Grenade Witchhunter build, which thrives on flashy chain reactions by obliterating cluster of mobs with a fiery detonation. Its mapping feels fast and satisfying, as his projectile scaling amplifies the AoE reach. However, when it comes to bosses, his weaknesses will show, because damage ramps up slowly and scaling feels flat compared to the more meta-friendly bow archetypes. The build works well as a fun thematic choice or league starter, but his ceiling is far below the ranged archetype that dominates right now. Then at number 18, we have the Shockwave Totem Warbringer build that takes a safer approach by summoning totems that pulse with the destructive shockwaves while you stay mobile. The Warbringer's Ascendancy strengthens the totems with the rage-fueled buffs and sustain, which makes it tankier than any most ranged option. It's excellent in controlled fights, particularly against stationary targets, but struggles with bosses that pace or move constantly. This build works because it converts the safety of the totems into a steady, impactful playstyle, but it lacks the sheer damage scaling of a melee or a mobility of a spellcaster. It remains a fun and a solid build, but is outpaced by more explosive endgame options in the current meta. Then next up we have Explosive Shot Witchhunter build that rains down fiery barrages by turning every arrow into a chain of destruction bursts. It's lightning fast at clearing speed, especially when mobs cluster together, and the Witchhunter scaling will bring some strong critical and the damage over time layering. The downside is its fragility. Poor defenses and reliance on positioning make it a high risk in tough encounters. In the current meta, other bow builds like the Ice Shot and the Lightning Arrow will simply scale better, although Explosive Shot works because it's stylish, versatile and clears quickly, but it doesn't have that depth or resilience to climb into the higher competitive ranks. Then at number 16 we have the gigantic minion army Infernalist that overwhelms enemies with the sheer numbers by filling the screen with a summon allies enhanced by the infernal explosions. Bosses will crumble under the relentless swarm, and mapping is safe since your minions do the heavy lifting. The Infernalist Ascendancy will add a chaotic scaling by turning the army into an even more destructive force. The drawback here is speed. This build clears slower than the ranged or the caster setups, making its farming less efficient. It works because of its durability and the low risk playstyle, and it's perfect for players who enjoy commanding armies. However, in a fast-paced meta it feels now clunkier, and that's why he's in this lower rank. Then next up we have the Galvanic Shards Witchhunter build that bombards enemies with the chaining projectiles, which dance across the screens of tightly packed mobs. It's visually impressive and efficient for clearing maps, especially when enhanced by the Witchhunter's critical and the damage over time boosts. While it can scale decently into the bossing, it demands significant investment to compete, and other elemental builds will overshadow it for the raw power. This build works because of its unique chaining mechanics, which makes the progression smooth and mapping enjoyable. Still, its gear dependency and the lack of burst damage will hold it back into the endgame content. It's stylish and fun, but ultimately mid-tier compared to the top performers. Next up we have Chaos Demon Form Infernalist build that brings unmatched destruction by morphing you into a chaos-filled monster that spreads degeneration and annihilates everything around it. Its power lies in bypassing resistances and covering battlefields with massive aerial denial. The Infernalist Ascendancy supercharges this form, which makes it feel unstoppable in boss fights and mapping alike. In theory, it's one of the most dominant builds ever conceived. However, for this ranking, it's still devastating but not currently the top pick in the broader meta. It works because chaos scaling is relentless, but it lands here in the mid tier despite its immense power. Then next we have the Fire Demon Infernalist build, which is a fiery juggernaut by blasting enemies with explosive AoV, while sustaining relentless fire damage. This build is very similar to the previous one, just with a fire element. It's powerful in both mapping and bossing, with the demon form providing not just the raw offense but added durability. This Infernalist Ascendancy synergizes perfectly by amplifying the fire effect until the build feels overwhelming. It's visually stunning and mechanically strong, and it's easily one of the most iconic forms available. Yet in this ranking it sits in the middle. It's dominant but is edged out by more versatile builds that push scaling further. Still, it works because fire never loses its place as a meta powerhouse. Then next we have the Warp Stormweaver build, which is a chaos in a motion by teleporting through the enemies while leaving explosive elemental storms behind. It merges mobility with the damage by rewarding active aggressive playstyle. The Stormweaver's Ascendancy will tie these elements together, ensuring consistent output even against resistant targets. It's incredibly fun for mapping, but its bossing falls short compared to the harder hitting elemental setups. This build works because it turns movement into offense, making it feel fast, stylish and unique. In the current meta though, its ceiling doesn't match the more refined Stormweaver archetypes, which is why it lands here as a strong thematic choice, but not the top elemental storm option. At number 11, we have Ballista Banner Tactician build that embodies strategy by deploying a field of ballistas that scale alongside the empowering banners. The result is a defensive yet devastating playstyle, where automatic weapons will shred while you stay mobile. The Tactician's Ascendancy will guarantee uptime, letting you focus on positioning and survival. In this meta, this is one of the strongest tactical builds, by offering a blend of safety and consistent scaling. It works because it multiplies your presence on the battlefield, with ballistas doing the heavy lifting. Its slower pace, however, keeps it from the top tier, but still it's a unique build that rewards methodical tactical gameplay. At number 10, we have Volcanic Forge Hammer Warbringer build, which is a raw melee power by smashing enemies with the molten hammer strikes that erupt into fiery blasts. It's excellent against groups with explosive AoV and bosses with crushing singular hits. The Warbringer's Ascendancy will add rage-fueled sustain by keeping the build durable even in the tough encounters. While melee builds often struggle in the meta, this one stands out as a contender thanks to its hybrid of the brute force and the elemental damage. It works because it balances survivability with the damage in a way that few melee archetypes will manage. Next up we have Essence Jane Infernalist build that spreads corruption across the maps by dealing steady chaos damage that snowballs into devastating waves of degeneration. Supported by contagion style mechanics, it wipes screens effortlessly while maintaining strong single target damage. Infernalist Ascendancy will push its chaos scaling further, making it a reliable all-rounder for bosses and mapping. In today's meta, it holds its place as a stable, safe, scalable and effective, though less flashy than the newer builds. It works because it balances clear speed and bossing so smoothly, by allowing players to progress without glaring weaknesses. This consistency places it firmly in the upper half of the rankings. At number 8, we have Explosive Shot Witchhunter build that thrives on turning every arrow into a devastating burst by chaining destruction across the battlefield. Its clear speed is fantastic, and the Witchhunter's Ascendancy brings that extra critical scaling and the damage layering. If we compare it to the Ice Shot or the Lightning Arrow, it does not reach the same heights, but it remains a highly satisfying ranged option. The build works because of its synergy between projectiles and AoV explosions, making the maps feel fast and fluid. Its glass cannon nature keeps it from climbing higher, but with the meta it's a strong thematic choice that rewards precision and aggressive positioning, which make it land in the top 10. Then at number 7, we have the Black Flame Blood Mage build that sacrifices vitality for the raw damage by channeling both the chaos and the fire damage into a devastating blend of degeneration. It thrives in longer fights, as stacking damage over time overwhelms even the toughest enemies. Its theme and mechanics are unique, bypassing many traditional defenses through the clever scaling. The build works because it fuses two elements seamlessly by creating a thematical powerhouse. Then at number 6, the Spark Blood Mage build dominates the maps with the chaotic ricocheting projectiles, overlapping to create a storm of devastation. Its power comes from consistency. No matter the map, Spark bounces until everything falls. The Blood Mage Ascendancy amplifies its ceiling by trading survivability for the raw output, appealing to a high-risk, high-reward type of player. In today's meta, the Spark remains iconic, and this twist makes it even stronger. It works because it overlaps hit scaling incredibly well by providing strong mapping and boss speed. At number 5, we have the Ice Strike Invoker that turns melee into a hybrid by combining each strike into the cold projectiles that freeze and shatter targets. It's fantastic for map control, locking down mobs while still packing melee impact. Invoker's Ascendancy enhances the hybrid nature by empowering melee with the spells like the damage scaling. In the current meta, it's a standout melee option, rising above the most physical builds through its utility and adaptability. It works because it bridges melee and the range by offering balance where many builds fall short. Its skill ceiling is slightly lower than the absolute top tier options, but it's comfortably one of the best melee builds available right now. Then at number 4, we have the 3-element stormweaver build that brings fire, cold and lightning together in a devastating harmony. By shredding the resistances and amplifying all elements at once, it adapts to any encounter with reliable, consistent DPS. The stormweaver's ascendancy will tie this synergy together by scaling the 3-elemental package into a one powerhouse. In today's meta, it's one of the most versatile casters that is capable of excelling in both farming and bossing. It works amazing because it has no glaring weaknesses, so clear, damage and adaptability are all excellent. Then at number 3, we have the Flicker Shock Invoker build that likes to teleport across the maps at a super speed to enhance both the melee and the spell-like casting. Mapping with this is excellent. It's one of the fastest in the game, but it comes with volatility. Freezing charge upkeep and the cooldown management make it harder to master, and bossing is not always smooth. This build works because the speed itself is power, letting it farm and clear like few other builds. Its style, pace and the raw energy place it among the absolute top options, despite its steep learning curve. Then at number 2, we have the Hollow Palm Invoker build that shapes combat back to the basics, so no weapons but just dexterity scaling into massive amounts of unarmed damage. It's explosive from leveling to the endgame, scaling easily and delivering fast-paced melee charges. Invoker's Ascendancy enhances it with the spell-like interactions, giving it the added flavor and the strength. In this meta, it's one of the most consistent melee builds. It's easily to start yet rewarding to mid-max. The build works because it's simple but brutally effective. You stack dexterity, scale speed, and obliterate everything you see. Its limitations come from its linearity, but its sheer accessibility and the damage output make it an elite choice by earning the number 2 spot in this list. And then at number 1, we have the Lightning Arrow Deadeye build, with its unmatched mapping speed and the Green's clearing power. Every shot chains lightnings across the pack and erasing enemies instantly. Deadeye's Ascendancy will push this further by applying projectile count and ranged until the maps will vanish in a single volley. While bossing lags slightly behind it without the heavy investment, it's still consistent and farm efficient, which make it the most reliable build in the game. It works because the balance of raw clearing speed with accessible scaling will make it available for beginners and veterans alike. In today's meta, the bold build remains supreme, and that's why it deserves and earns the number 1 spot in this video.